Hello everybody, thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Jana Thompson and I'm with the Revelstoke Chamber of Commerce, and we are pleased to be hosting this event for our community this evening. Thank you to all the candidates and to all you citizens for coming out this evening. We will also be live streaming the event, so welcome to everybody that's watching from home this evening. I'd like to introduce our moderator for the evening, Cindy Pearce. There she is. Cindy has lived in Revelstoke for almost 25 years. She has a home-based business providing support to rural communities to resolve issues and capture opportunities related to natural resource management. In Revelstoke, she has led many community planning initiatives, including land use planning and integrated action planning. She continues to work on community wildfire protection as well. She has also been an extremely active community volunteer. Cindy, welcome.
Thank you, Jenna, very, very much. Thank you. It's truly an honor to take on this task. For those of you who weren't here 4 years ago and 4 years before that, or 3 years before that and 3 years before that, Dr. Jeff Battersby, ex-mayor, doctor, and recipient of the Order of Canada used to do this. So when I was talking with him about it, I said, I feel like I have really big shoes to fill. And he told me what his shoe size is. It's twice mine. So it's a big job. I want to thank you all for coming out tonight, and I want to congratulate you for being on time. That's wonderful. We kind of have a challenge in Revelstoke about being on time. I'm not sure what that's all about, but it exists. The chamber had complaints at the last session about people coming in late and being noisy and disrupting things. So we're going to try closing the doors while there are things going on, and then opening them when there's a quiet time or something else happening, so people can come in kind of in shifts, and we'll see how that works. There'll probably be complaints about that too, but we'll give it a go, okay? I'm always curious about who shows up for these kinds of events, so I'd ask you to give me a show of hands, and to each other if you could. Hands up high. How many of you have been here for less than 2 years? Up high. Thank you for engaging so soon after you've arrived. How many of you have been here 2 to 5 years? Wonderful, thank you. 6 to 10 years? Wow, we got a great distribution here. 11 to 20 years? Oh man, this is great, wonderful. And more than 20 years? Hey, not bad. Thanks for continuing to come out, and that's a signal actually for how this community functions. People get involved. They put their oar in the water. How many of you were born and raised here? Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. That was really helpful to understand our community a little bit and to know that everybody's showing up. It's really helpful. I have a request. These blasted beasts, turn them off, please. If anything rings, I have a toonie jar. And we're going to pass it around, and you pay. And it goes to the food bank, okay? Is that fair ball? Okay. I've turned mine off, so I'm okay. Now, this is a community event. It's a community building event. So I'd like us to take a minute, or two if we need it, and introduce yourselves to someone that you don't know in the room. And when you introduce yourself, include explaining why you came to Revelstoke, even if you were born and raised here. And for those at the back, we can open the doors up. Okay, take a minute, introduce yourself to someone you don't know. Excellent. Doesn't take long to get the chatter started. Okay, let's regroup. This is always the problem when you get people started chattering, right? But again, that's what community is about, is introducing yourself to people you don't know and getting a conversation started. There'll be a break and you can continue the conversation later. So this forum invites candidates seeking city council positions to express their views openly, so community members like you can understand their positions and make informed voting choices. Putting forward your name to serve on city council is one of the most significant choices a person can make in a small town like ours. It has huge impacts on your life. Anyone who's run for council or been on council will tell you your personal life, your time, your resources, your reputation, pretty much everything in a small town you cannot hide. Please join me in a round of applause to thank all of the candidates for stepping up and putting their name forward for this meeting. So we have a process here tonight, and I'm going to read my notes so that I don't miss anything. We'll start with the 2-minute opening statements from each of the candidates in the order you see them in front of you, with the mayor candidates first. And the order is based on them having drawn numbers. It's a random system. We didn't stack the deck in any way, shape, or form. The candidates will introduce themselves at the beginning of their statement, and they can choose to stand up if they wish. We had intended to have risers, but that didn't happen, so please feel that free to stand up. This will then be followed by 7 questions that each candidate will answer in 1 minute each. These questions are based on questions that were submitted to the Chamber of Commerce in recent weeks, and if we have time, ones that are posed by those of you who've come through the door with questions as well, and currently I only have 1 question like that. To be fair to all of the candidates, to each other, there won't be questions taken from the floor, and the allotted times will be strictly followed. And I will come back to that in a minute. I'll read out the question, and it'll be shown up on the screen. Then the candidates will start answering, starting with the next candidate in line from the one who spoke first last time, and we'll see if we can manage that process without getting confused. There'll be a short break around 8 o'clock, but if you're welcome to get up quietly at any time if you need to. We will end then with a 2-minute closing statement from each of the candidates in the opposite order of the opening statements. I want to remind people that this is a forum. It's not a debate. So there will be no interactions between candidates. Do we all get that? Thank you very much. Closing statements are your place to rebut anything that you might feel you need to rebut. There won't be a winner declared tonight. It's not a debate. The election will be where the winners are declared. Kevin Dorius, the general manager at Revelstoke Community Future, has kindly volunteered to be our timer. He's using a timing board that will be visible to the candidates. He will also give them a 15-second notice, so they've had lots of warning when their time is run out. When they get to the end of their timing, a bell will be rung continuously. And the intention there is to drown you out, because to be fair, you each only have so much time, and there were complaints last time that some people did run on. So this is part of being respectful and having decorum in the process, is being mindful of Kevin with the ding-dong. Now, I want to just for a moment also recognize Jeff Shirray over in the corner. He's volunteered to video this session. Please join me in thanking Kevin and Jeff as volunteers. Now, I've been told by folks who've learned that I'm going to moderate this event that they hope the candidates will tell us what they will do to guide this amazing place of Revelstoke to being an even better place to live, work, and play. That they won't just shoot down what others have done. Finding fault is easy. Championing real solutions is what we look to you now for, and as City Council members. The format for this session has been provided to each of the candidates, and it says, the moderator will maintain order and decorum. Now, I can tell you that the kids that come to visit me on Friday afternoons don't think there's order and decorum in my house. So we'll see how this goes. It also says there'll be no grandstanding, no speaking off topic, or off-color remarks will be permitted and will be called out of order. Now, I'm expecting that you candidates won't need me to call you out of order. I'm expecting that you'll behave respectfully, and in ways that we can expect you to behave as city council members while you express your passion and commitment for our little town. So let's focus on the passion and commitment and stay away from things that will get us in trouble with the order. We expect to be completed by about 9:15, hopefully, but we'll see how things go with each of the questions. So, are we all good up here? Everybody comfortable? All good out there? Ready to roll? So let's get started then with opening statements. And could we please close the doors so we don't disturb the opening statements? And I'll turn first to currently Councillor Gary Sulz, who is a candidate for mayor, to do his opening statement. You drew number 1 for the mayor candidates. Thank you, Gary. And these are 2-minute long statements.
Madam Moderator, Mr. Timekeeper, fellow candidates, and fellow citizens. My name is Gary Sulz, and I'm running for mayor. I have a long history here in Revelstoke, serving through funeral service, the RCMP Auxiliary Program, emergency social services, and currently finishing my first 4-year term on council. I believe my experience in this community lends itself well to the natural progression of the position of mayor. I have seen many changes during my 34+ years here in Revelstoke, and having spent my career assisting others during the worst time of their lives, I understand the need for calm, strong leadership. This type of leadership empowers others to be their best and allows me to actively listen and hear all community members. The current term in council has shown me what the value of open community engagement can be, and the positive strength proven when we work together to enhance all that we have here in our community. We are at a point where we need community input to address the affordability and humanitarian issues that consistently challenge us. I believe with community and city teamwork, we can be successful in dealing with these challenges. I feel that as your mayor, I can lead this teamwork for the betterment of all, and I humbly ask for your support.
Thank you, Carrie. The next mayor candidate, Darcy Wyonzek. I'm sorry, I should have checked
No, that's fine.
the name.
Okay. Good evening. I'm from Canadian Siberia, and absolutely nobody in this town has ever held it against me. And Canadian Siberia is Saskatchewan. It just keeps getting colder. I've been on an odyssey the last 4 years, from Niagara to Nanaimo in a wheelchair. And I was going back to Saskatchewan in defeat. But I thought, I passed through Revelstoke in November of 2015. And I felt the pull. And I thought, well, this is crazy. You got all your stuff, your keepsakes from Saskatchewan in one big bag, and another big bag of fancy stuff you got in Toronto, and you just want to let it go right on to Nanaimo and stay here. And guess what? It was snaining. So I thought, promise yourself you'll come back, because this is one mountain range I've never seen. And to come back here and find a bubble, a beautiful place where I told everybody it's like somebody took a fantasy family Christmas snow globe and they just plopped it straight in the wilderness. I'm still learning to walk. And so the first group that I got involved with was Bear Aware. And I got to get out of my wheelchair and climb up on a deck and fill a big pail of cherries. And I keep telling people in Saskatchewan, I got to pick choke cherries, and they're huge. And even the dandelions grow better. And so I just fell right in love, not just with Revelstoke, but the people. Because one of my favorite sayings is when you grow up as an adult, you get to be a kid again. So I'm almost out of time. If I needed one word to describe myself, I'm a fighter, okay? And I'm a mama bear, and I'll fight for everybody in this town, and I will listen to everybody. Now I'm gonna hand it over.
Thank you, Darcy. Cody?
Wow, all right, good evening. I just want to say thanks to everybody for coming and to everybody at the table for running. One thing before I get going, I've already heard rumors and I've talked to people that personal attacks are already getting taken, and I think it's so wrong, and I just ask, please be thankful for everybody that's running here, putting their name forward, and don't make it personal. Everybody's doing this for the better of Revelstoke. A lot of people ask me lately why I've been running, why am I doing this? I've answered with the review in the Mountaineer, and now I'm coming out here so that you guys can really know who I am, not just the guy from the grocery store that recently changed grocery stores, so just make sure you know that. I'm doing this because I truly care about Revelstoke. I've been here since 2015, and I instantly fell in love with the community. Prior to living in Revelstoke, I was fortunate enough to travel all around the province, live on Vancouver Island, up in the Caribou, and this is by far the best place to live in BC. I don't necessarily agree with all the things that have been going on, and I agree with some things that have been going on, but at the end of the day, we all run for public office because we believe we can make a difference, and we want to make this place better. One of the big things that I want to bring forward, and I believe I would be a good asset to the table, is bringing communication and transparency. I've been door knocking, I've met with tons of people over the last couple of weeks, 50, 60 people, just in meetings, not including the door knocking. And the number one thing that I've heard is communication and transparency. And too many people in this town don't feel like they're being heard anymore. The people that have been here 15, 20, 30 years, their voice is gone. They don't feel like they're being listened to. And that's my number one thing I can promise you, is that nobody buys me on my own vote, and I'm willing to listen to everybody and bring your voice to the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Cody. Michael?
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Brooks-Hill, and I'd like to thank everyone for coming out this evening, and Cindy especially for that lovely introduction. I think that was great, getting people to introduce themselves to each other. There's a lot of new people coming to town these days, and I think that's something that we have to embrace. It's something that Revelstoke has always had. I've been living here for 15 years. I first came here in 2001, and I used to travel a lot. I've been to over 25 countries. I've been back and forth across Canada, and Revelstoke's home. I've never found a better place to live. And 4 years ago, I put my name forward to run for mayor because I wanted to see a change in town, and obviously I was unsuccessful, but I've kept with it. I've been going to city council meetings for the last 4 years, very consistently, and I'm ready to work for you, the people, to help make this community the best it can be. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Tim?
Thank you. My name's Tim Palmer. I've worked in local government for 25 years, over 25 years, as a tradesperson, as a public works supervisor, engineering director, and as a chief administrative officer. Previously, I've worked in construction and manufacturing. Today, I'm a business owner, and apparently, I'm a politician. But this election is not about me. This election is about Revelstoke. This is an election about your future in Revelstoke. So I have a question for you. What will your Revelstoke be like in 4 years? That's the term of this council. So what will we look like in 4 years? Revelstoke has a vision established in 1994 and reaffirmed many times since. Our vision, Revelstoke's vision, is to build on our rich heritage and natural beauty. Our vision is to pursue quality and excellence. Revelstoke will continue to be vibrant, healthy, clean, hospitable, resilient, and forward-thinking. I embrace Revelstoke's vision. I look forward to reinvigorating these fundamentals to achieve a sustainable community by balancing the environmental, social, and economic values. This is your Revelstoke. This is our Revelstoke. Revelstoke.
Thank you, Tim. Rob?
Hello, Revelstoke. My name is Rob Elliott. what I would like to say to introduce myself, how I ended up here. I started in 2003 with a road trip with my daughter. We were going to Vancouver to visit my parents. Mom and my other daughter were staying in Canmore, where I'd lived for many years prior to that. But I ended up in Revelstoke by accident. I was driving along, my car started to act up a little bit, and I drove into the center of town here, and it was a discovery. The garage attendant took care of my car. I said, listen, we'll slip you in here. I know you're on your way. We'll get you out of here as fast as we can. We'll take care of it, no problem. Then, while I was waiting, I was wandering down along First Street, and a marching band goes by playing bagpipes, and a cadet group were walking along. My daughter tagged along. She was dancing, doing her silly thing alongside, but there were 3 or 4 other children in the middle of the street doing this as they went along the way. That was fine. That was an entertainment thing for me, but it was a relaxed, casual thing that was very inviting. I then went down to Mackenzie Avenue trying to find something to eat. Not a lot there, but it was very, I got given lots of advice, and I was sent to a juice bar and a hair salon, which is a combination that doesn't come normally. But anyway, the lady, we got a juice, my daughter spilt it all over the thing, and it was all over everywhere, and I had a screaming child on my hands. And I didn't really know what to do. I was struggling with all this dilemma that was going on through the day. And anyway, the shop owner showed up with a replacement drink. She took my daughter around her salon and entertained her. So, and then I just went and looked around where was that while she was being shown her shop, and I saw the downtown core that was very inviting, very relaxed, very casual, and that was what brought me to Revelstoke, and that's what I would like to protect going forward into the future. But I know what's going to drive this in the future is business and tourism and many different things. But
Thank you, Rob. Candidates, can I ask you to keep the mic real close to your mouth, and you don't need to keep passing the same one down. You can use whichever one. That's okay, Rob. Don't worry. Those wires are dangerous. Well, if you want to pass, that's completely fine. Make the technology work for you.
Hi there, folks. Welcome. It's great to see such a good turnout. That really is participation, and that's what's going to be really important in our next 4 years, is even more participation from the public. That's what really one of my key messages will be. First, a little bit about me. My name is Stephen Cross. My family, we came here just over 5 years ago for a 5-day visit, and 90 days after that, we pulled up stakes out of Toronto, sold our house, and moved here permanently. We felt like we were coming home for the first time in our lives. We're entrepreneurs, so when we came, we said, well, what can we do here? We ended up opening up Revy Outdoors, outdoor shop. We have an award-winning B&B operation out of our house, which, by the way, is fully licensed and up to code. And we're always home. We built up a consulting and a practice in leadership, management, and customer service skills through Okanagan College. My wife and I are still on staff with Queen's University back east, where we're advisors on the MBA program for the entire Americas with Queen's, something we got asked to do after we graduated in '99. So what I think is important in opening comments, I want to know who you're voting for if you vote for me. I don't profess to have all the solutions and answers, but I do have a particular approach and an ethos. First and foremost, I have a conviction the next 4 years will be critical. Secondly, I have a philosophy that what matters most is that the people who live here get a say in what happens. Third, I have a belief that my experience in governance and leadership will be an asset. I focus on team building and high-performance teams. Fourth, I have real experience in large organizations. I've managed 200 to 300 people. I've managed $35 to $50 million budgets. And last, I know myself. If needed, I'll not be afraid to stand up and be a leader. I'll be the guy calling the elephant in the room.
Thank you, Steve.
Hello, Revelstoke. My name is Steve Kent. Many of you know me as the Green Cat. I own a small home renovation company in town, and I've been here since 2002. When I first moved here, I'd like to say that I've never felt as welcome in any other community as I felt when I moved here. And I appreciate that a lot. I'd also like to say that I don't stand up as someone who will run for council with an expectation that I will make change. I don't have an agenda. I believe the role of the councillor is to educate yourself about the needs of the community and learn as much as you can about that which comes before council, and then as part of a team, make the best decisions that you can so that we can move forward in a way that we want to. And that's basically all I'd like to say about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. Nicole.
You may know me from the old Donito's chip truck, when my husband and I served the best grilled sandwiches. Perhaps it was one of our events at the Revelstoke Golf Club. More likely, I've helped you buy new cookware or bedding at my store downtown. Madam Moderator, members of our community, my name is Nicole Cherlet, and I'm running for Revelstoke City Council. My husband and I moved to Revelstoke when the financial crisis hit the world. We worked in various restaurants and shops, trying to figure out a way to make ends meet. We loved the sense of community that we'd found here, and we knew that we wanted to make Revelstoke home. With the continued support of Community Futures, I bought Chantilly Kitchen, now Big Mountain Kitchen and Linen, almost 5 years ago. Through this journey, I have learned so much. I'm now president of the Revelstoke Local Food Initiative, and up to the start of this campaign, president of the Revelstoke Chamber of Commerce. I've always felt strongly that it's up to each of us to volunteer and engage to make the world we want to live in. In those roles, I've learned the importance of good governance and the value of listening to diverse opinions. Our community roots lie in forestry and the railway. BC Hydro has a huge impact on our city and waterways. Tourism grows every year, and the tech industry is a fast-growing sector since the installation of fiber. I've seen that we can't make everybody happy, but we can give everyone a voice. To make Revelstoke a city with space for everyone, we need to think outside the box and leverage the expertise in our community through proper collaboration. Affordability needs to be central to our efforts. It's a complex challenge involving transit, housing, food security, and social issues. But whether you're struggling to pay your rent, to put healthy food on the table, or to pay your property taxes on a fixed income, affordability affects us all. We need a city council that listens to us all. Madam Moderator.
Thank you, Nicole. And just a second here. Is it my not quite elderly ears, or are we getting a bit of a reverb and an echo? It's just my ears? No, it's okay. Good. Not good, but good.
Good morning, everyone. I should say good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tony Morabito, and I'm running for council. I arrived in Revelstoke by rail on the Dominion with my mother and brother in the summer of 1952. Having traveled from Italy to Halifax by boat and on to Revelstoke by train to join my father, who came in 1951. I attended school in Revelstoke from grade 1 to 11, then studied the operation and maintenance of construction equipment at Greer Technical Institute in Braidwood, Illinois. In 1968, I started work with the Department of Highways on the survey crew and went on to operate equipment involved in road maintenance and snow removal activities. The last 4 years there, I supervised an asphalt patching crew, some minor construction projects, and snow clearing operations. With the advent of privatization of highway maintenance, I decided to move on to the private sector, and after a short stint operating a grader and working on the McDonald Tunnel project, I landed a job as a road construction and maintenance supervisor on TFL 23. Then later on, TFL 55, from which I retired from December 2015. Since then, I worked on the roundabout, being hired to resolve conflicts between businesses in the vicinity of the construction. I also volunteered at the Queen Victoria helipad to supervise the earthworks portion and was recently involved with upgrades of the Nordic Club parking lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony. Jackie, you're next.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jackie Rhinde, and I'm here tonight because I want to help do my part to make Revelstoke, there we are, the best community that it can be. My platform is one of action, but smart action. I think we need to embrace and welcome growth, but we can't do it at the expense of our people. We need to provide incentives for the construction of mid-level residential homes, staff accommodation, affordable housing for low-income residents of the community, and prioritize the housing needs of our senior citizens. The bottom line is that Revelstoke needs housing. While it is essential to support the pillars of our economy, such as the mill, the railway, the dam, and tourism, we also need to take advantage of opportunities that bring innovation and technology to our town. Recreation and culture are also fundamental to our health as a community. Luna Art Fest was a great example of that, and I think everybody can attest to the fact that it was culture and art that brings people together. That was a really great example of that. But like many of us, I am concerned about the pressure of developments and impacts this can have on keeping Revelstoke unique. The way I see it, though, the fact that Revelstoke has been so resistant to change in the past means that now more than ever, we have a great opportunity to do it right. It's not about saying no to all developments, it's about saying yes to the right kinds of developments. And I think if we want those decisions to reflect all members of the community, we have to have leadership that is diverse and strong and collaborates together with the community. If I'm elected to City Council, I will represent your interests and do so and make sure that together we can make sure Revelstoke's growth is on our terms and that it puts community interests first.
Thank you. Thank you, Jackie. And last but not least, Peter.
Blah, blah, blah. Me. I did this, I'll do that. Really, I have no right to stand up here and lecture you about how great I am or how great I'm going to be. I should be sitting here listening to you lecture me, and then when it's time to come to the ballot box, you look at the names of the candidates and check off the name of the candidate that you think got the message. But that's not the way elections work, and that's not the way this forum is structured, so bear with me. I'm not running a traditional campaign in that I won't spend any money, I won't put up any signs, no brochures, and I'm definitely not going to invade your private time by knocking on your door. But given that you've all come out tonight, I won't disappoint you. So here's my line. I shall, if elected, be guided by the following facts, with facts are F, A, C, and T. So F stands for facilitate, whether that be growth, affordable housing, or many other things. A is for act now, getting things done in a timely manner. C, communicate, and communicate. T is for transparency and tearing down red tape and those useless rules. S is for spending, the wise use of taxpayers' money. I'm going to use these facts, F-A-C-T, to guide my decisions that I make in City Council. So if you like what I have to say, tell your friends. If you don't like what I have to say, tell your friends. We're a small town. We need to act like it. Vote Peter Humphreys.
Thank you, Peter, and thanks to all the candidates for their really mind-bending opening statements. Can we open the doors and let anybody in? If there's anybody still hanging out there, I think we're okay. Sorry we're losing the little one. It was nice to have a child in the room as we move through this. So let's move to question number 1. Now again, these questions are based on questions that were submitted to the chamber, and we have combined them and moved them around because there were many more questions than we could handle in the time frame for this forum. So the first question is, the city, thank you, Peter, and we will start the question responses with Darcy, moving one down. The city has had significant staff turnover in the last year, and there have been concerns about communications from the city to residents and collaboration by the city with others. Do you see these as problems for the city? And if so, what would you do to address them as a member of council? 1 minute. Darcy?
Well, I am. Hello? Yes, well, I am a newbie, so I was not aware that it was a change in staff. So far, I've seen them really working hard. And some of what I've seen coming out, especially with respect to the marijuana and just even getting me set up so I can do my homework. Everybody that I've encountered works really hard, and I think they're motivated to do so. So as far as mayor goes, I would be facilitating that, and whatever problems they might be having, whatever we can do to make that better. And yes, communication, very important. And cell phones don't always work, not for me. So like, I will be available full time, all right?
Thank you, Darcy. Cody, you're next.
So if you follow me on my Facebook page, which you should, just so you know, yeah, one of my big things that I've been saying is there's a problem at City Hall, and it has nothing to do with the city staff. I don't fault them for any of this, but any successful business that many people in this room run, or any business you would hear about, if there is a high turnover of management, there is a problem with that business. And I believe that City Hall needs to be run more like a business, and the one that's getting run right now is clearly not doing well. You know, we don't have a city planner now. We go through building inspectors. We just hired a new economic development director. We shouldn't be going through these positions. It's a strain on the City Hall as it is, and it doesn't help with the morale with the city staff. One of the things that I would say that if I was elected to council that I would do is to sit down with all the other council members and the mayor and to figure out what's going on and look at bringing an outside consultation company in to try and find out what the problems are and truly talk to the staff.
Thank you, Cody. Michael.
This is like 3 questions in one. So yes, staff turnover is a huge issue, and it's a complicated issue. Communications from the city to residents, I find, has been very inconsistent. The public hearings for some issues have happened in public consultation, like the marijuana bylaw was passed without any issues because there was proper consultations done. DCCs were rushed through without consultations, and it was a disaster. So I think communication, but also consistency in the level of communication is important. And collaboration. So the staff turnover, part of the problem is also, as I was seeing today, running out of time, hiring staff is also a challenge because there's a lack of accommodation. So it all comes back to housing, planning, OCP, and so on. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Tim.
I agree. It's 3 questions. On the staff, yeah, there's a bit of turnover at City Hall. We have a lot of stability at Public Works and Recreation. There's a lot of stability. We have lots of really good employees, and we don't hear squawking. Things are running really well. City Hall has a few more employees than they had before. I'd rather see a little bit of a leaner ship and finding the solutions. 33 seconds. Communications. Yeah, we have a lot of work to do on communications, and that starts at this table with the council, making sure that we're communicating with the public, communicating with staff, but more importantly, that we're listening. And there's a lot more opportunity for council to be listening to the residents, and there's a number of mechanisms there. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Rob?
Anytime you lose staff, it's an issue. If you have any business, it's trouble. Like losing key members of the staff, the management team is a crisis. So recovering from that, running a business, it takes a lot of time to come back from losing a key member. We've lost some very, very crucial members of our city administration team. We can't keep doing that. We have to change. Something is wrong, and we have to fix it. Find a way. We need some to rethink the way we just can't keep running through people. That's wrong. Communication is a big part of that. But the bigger part is that we have to have an identity or a plan or a big objective that rallies everybody behind it. And that's the missing element. We have all this tension, this uncertainty, this misdirection that's going on is because we don't know where we're going. And I think that's the first step. That can rally everybody behind it, the staff, the council, the community behind it, if we're all supporting this one direction forward.
Thank you, Rob. Steve?
This is a common problem in just about every organization in the world. Teams are complicated. There's an old saying that, 2 people is X complication, 3 people is X squared, 4 people is X to the cubed, right? So my view on this is we have a really hard-working city hall. Trust may be damaged in some places there. And that's part A. Part B is, as council members, we work from a governance perspective. It would be wrong of us to micromanage City Hall. That's not the way good governance works. Nonetheless, good governance is about setting standards, so I'd like to talk to City Hall and my fellow councillors when elected, if elected, about what do we need to do to go in there on the human resource processes. What is the hiring practices? What is the leadership paradigm? Where do they want to go? And after that, put good governance in on that process, and over time, I believe we'll get a better teamwork going.
Thank you, Steve. Steve Trump.
Yeah, we could do a lot better at communicating with the public what City Hall is doing. I think the DCC process was a good example of how poorly we can do it. And I think that we have a community that's ready to be engaged. Like, there's a lot of people here right now. Any public meeting that I've been to has had a lot of people show up at it. Everybody cares. We just have to make sure that we're listening. The problem with City Hall going through people is huge, and I have no idea why that is the case. I asked Mark that question, and he didn't know either. But I do know that there's been an offer to do an external audit of the City Hall. That I think the Chamber of Commerce came up with that, and I think we should jump on that. We should accept that offer and definitely do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Nicole?
So like I mentioned before, I come from restaurants and hospitality. That's my background. You want to see high turnover? Try working in a seasonal restaurant. But then there's other restaurants that seem to have the same crew year after year after year. And what I've seen, the commonalities in those, is if you give staff the tools they need to do their job, and you recognize them for a job well done, while offering some caring, compassion, and support to help them improve the spots that they're struggling in. That's what builds a strong team. But we are right, we are not the managers of these teams. We are in governance at City Council. I've put a big post about how I feel about governance and the things that I've been learning in the last year on my website. So if you Google Nicole Cherlet, you will see my details on that. I've also gone into what it means to truly collaborate with our community and consult in a way that is brave, that we have the guts to listen to the answers and to implement them into smart policy moving forward.
Thank you, Nicole. Tony?
Yeah, I'm concerned about the staff turnover and think there's some misinformation and probably tensions due to comments from the public and residents. And and pressure from the business sector. And I would like to meet with the CAO and try and resolve any issues that are outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
So I think there's two parts to this problem. The first is that it's a bit of a systemic issue in that we have some outdated planning documents, and that makes it really difficult for the city to do their job effectively. I mean, I don't think anybody wants to be putting out permits slowly or wasting their time going back and forth with developers. So I think that's one part of the issue, and so updating those documents would be a great step. And the second is the workload. Obviously, we have a lot more permits going through the door now than we had before. And so it might be worth doing some kind of internal assessment just to see where those bottlenecks are and what we can do to alleviate some of the pressure on those pressure points.
Thank you, Jackie. Peter?
So I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this, but Madam Moderator, I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm not, but to make sure you're all paying attention, there's going to be a test at the end of this. And I think I can let a few of the answers slip out. And one of them is, what's Cody's middle name? And the other question is going to be, what does C stand for in my facts? Now, were you paying attention? C stands for communicate, communicate, and communicate. So that's exactly what I'm going to do, and on this issue as well.
Thank you, Peter. Gary.
Okay, I'll be quick. Definitely there's a problem when we have turnover, whether that's in City Hall, any kind of business, there's a problem. And the problem is when people leave, the workload's transferred to other people. There might be new people coming in and they're not up to speed yet. Is there a problem with some of the people that have left? Some people have left in the last couple of years because of family moving on to other better things for them. And then that puts pressure on the other people that are there. So it's a system within a system. When we're dealing with staff, it's all about what's going to be best. The best thing that we can do is empower those who are there, build them up, strengthen them up, whether that gives them other resources or whatever we need to do. And with communication, all that we can do is engage the community, engage the city staff, and work as a team. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. So the ice is broken. How are you feeling? Worst is over? Ready for the second question? Our community faces several affordability issues. You've heard about some of them from some of the opening statements. What do you identify as affordability issues, and how would you champion solutions? Cody, you're going to go first. Thank you.
So I think everybody in this room knows there's an affordability crisis in Revelstoke, and we need to address it. And I do give credit to the current council. They have tried, and many communities try. And it's not something that's going to happen overnight, but it's something that we need to continue to work forward. One of the huge issues with me and the lack of affordability, or some people are saying attainability, is a huge part of that is the lack of affordable housing. There's people, 16, 17 people living in rooms and homes. They're not able to find shelter. They're not coming to work here. We can address this affordability by starting to work with, developers. One of the things with the DCCs was the huge issue that I think wasn't brought forward is that we need to work better with them to encourage them to build not-for-profit affordable housing that would allow our residents to live in it. Wow, the minute sure goes fast. But the first thing, I believe we need to address would be working to continue to work on the affordable housing issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Cody. And yeah, a minute does go fast, and council meetings go fast too.
So the major part of affordability that the city can address is housing. And as always, it's a complicated question for 1 minute, but one simple solution is to, like many resort communities around the province and around the world, is to force developers when they're building large developments, whether it's large commercial hotels or large condo buildings, to include in that either staff accommodation or market rate accommodation, or as an alternative to pay a certain percentage of the value, such as 5% of the total value of the project into a fund for the city to build affordable housing. Whether that specific way is a route that we wish to go, we definitely need to have the developers, as we're growing our town, contribute to affordable housing here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Tim?
So if we're talking about groceries, I'll defer that to Cody. Affordability on housing, I think we're talking about housing, and it is difficult to articulate this very quickly, but there is a few things, and it ties to the staffing. I don't think we have a big problem with staffing. I think we've got a problem with staffing if we concentrate on that. We need solutions, and this goes to allowing the development community to develop housing. Let's issue building permits. Let's issue development permits that make sense. Let's not have long periods of time. Let's look at DCCs to create incentives so people can build appropriate suites that they'll do legally. Big complication, but the affordability is many, many layers, and government doesn't do a good job on projects.
Thank you, Tim. Rob?
Affordability is driven, a big factor in it is housing. Our housing supply is restricted. We have a limited variety in our housing, and then the simplest solution I can see is apartment buildings. There have been no apartments or any similar facsimile of a housing type in our community in the last 20, 25 years. I see that there's ways you can incentivize apartments, you can encourage them to lower DCCs, lower the tax rates on the land. There's all kinds of ways we can create affordable housing. The prices will go up if the housing supply is restricted, and it's not necessarily ownership, it can be rentals, and rentals are affordable. And the less supply we have, the price is going to continue to go up, and if housing's the 30 to 40% of our expenditures, our household expenditures, it's going to continue to be a problem unless we address it.
Thank you, Rob. Steve?
This is one of the most complex issues that we face as a community. There's no simple answers. I've been involved in a number of committees and meetings on this in the last 5 years. It's very complex. But let me say this, we have 4 unique affordability issues in town. One is we need employment housing for short-term workers. We need low-income rentals for people that can't afford more than that, and that has to be quality build, not just cheap stuff. We need affordable housing for families who actually want to own the property, and we need a place for our seniors. We're going to lose a lot of our seniors if we don't start building stuff that our longtime families, when they sell their property, they don't want to look after it. Those are 4 very different aspects of this problem, folks. My suggestion for a solution is let's get developers in a room. Not all development is good development, but if we talk to our developers and we work out really great solutions, one of which is tiny houses. I had a great meeting this morning about that. We should explore that.
Thank you, Steve. Steve the Builder next.
Yeah, I think we need to look at ways of having more affordable housing in town. I think that no one would argue that, and I think one of the ways to do that would be to streamline the process so that it's easier to build secondary suites, not be resistant to some forms of secondary housing, such as carriage houses or tiny homes, and also incentivize that work to make it easier and for people to do that. I also think that we have a lot of units that are being devoted to illegal rentals, and I think we have to pounce on that and get those units back into the housing pool. I also think it's time for RMR to step up and provide employee housing, which is what they said they would do in their initial master plan.
Thank you, Steve. Nicole?
Thank you. Affordability is bigger than just housing. Having a roof over your head is key, obviously. I've had 10 different roofs over my head since I moved here 10 years ago. Finding an appropriate place that's affordable and close to work is a challenge. I don't want to have to buy a second vehicle. Transportation in our community is the pits. Trying to use the bus to actually commute from one neighborhood to another is so impractical. You need a car unless you're able to walk or take your bicycle to work. And if you have to look decent for front of house work, it's a challenge. Food security is another big issue. Getting affordable, good quality food on your table, no matter what your walk of life, is another key thing of surviving. Not everyone has the freedom, the time, the car to leave town to get cheaper groceries. And finally, the social issues. When you're broke and you're stressed about how to pay rent, that puts a huge strain on anxiety, depression, and your general mental health. It's really hard to be poor.
Thank you, Nicole. Tony?
I think employers should have be incentivized to perhaps through the DCCs to provide housing for employees. As far as affordability for seniors, there should be apartments built. We have several properties that can be utilized for that, and I think we need to get out and contact builders to go that route. As far as affordability of buying a house, I think market forces will dictate that, and bank rates have moderated or worked.
Thanks, Tony. Jackie, please.
For me, affordability is housing. I read somewhere that people in Revelstoke spend about 50% of their wages on housing. So I think by encouraging and reducing the barriers for people to create more creative solutions for housing is a really great first step. And all the articles I've ever read on this and reports, high density is the solution. It's the best bang for your buck, getting the roofs over as many people as possible, but also increasing your tax revenue. We also need to do a better job at regulating vacation rentals, the illegal ones, and just keeping that market in check to make sure it doesn't affect long-term rentals. Committing businesses to provide staff accommodation and working with them, maybe it's like a privately funded endeavor, and then lastly, also providing resources to the Housing Society so that they can actually enforce that affordable homes remain as such, because it's not more than putting a covenant on a lease. It takes a lot of time and resources.
Thank you, Jackie. Peter?
So I'm a cost fighter. When I'm going to come to council, we're going to reduce the price of what it costs to operate this city, and we're going to roll that money back into businesses so businesses can save money, reduce their costs, and things are affordable. So it's not just housing, it's dog food, it's cat food, it's gasoline. So gasoline, we set up Ed's Gas Club, we had some extra space there, threw the tank in there, kept the cost down. You're out there in the rain, filling your tank, we don't have a roof on it, but we returned over $250,000 in savings since we opened that a year and a half ago. So it comes down to greed too. Drive those costs down. I can't affect lumber prices, but competition can.
Thank you, Peter. Barry? Peter.
Affordability comes down to many issues. Housing is one, sustainable wages, housing for those who come to our community to work, all those play a part. Poverty reduction is important. We need to deal with it by going out to you, the community, asking you for creative solutions. I've met with many people in the last few weeks who've come up with some ideas, and we need to think outside the norm to come out with these ideas. It really is an issue for the entire province, if not the entire country. So we'll have to come up with a Revelstoke solution to actually make this work. It sounds like it's all words, but we start just by getting down and doing the work. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Darcy?
Hello. I think with respect to affordability, I was quite confused when I first came to BC because I absolutely love salmon, and I get it in Davidson, Saskatchewan at half the price. And I don't get that because it's coming from BC. So that was one thing I'm really curious about. And also just being around here, trying to find a place to live. There's these big bin cabins, and they're really great, and they're empty. And I want to know why. And I want to know about how we can think outside the box. Like, start looking at smaller villages where you're looking at skiers are going to live here and workers are going to live here. Less is more. And also people owning their own homes, and let's help them do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Darcy. Thank you, all of you, for your insightful comments and also being mindful of the time. It makes Kevin and my job much easier. So question number 3, and this will start with Michael. The question is, historically, Revelstoke has focused retail services in the downtown. Several years ago, for those of you who weren't here then, there was a very fractious community debate about retail development on the highway. Now there are proposals for retail development outside the downtown core, and I would add in a number of locations. What is your vision for retail development in the community?
I envision retail development happening primarily in the downtown core. I think there's definitely a place in the Big Eddy. There's just a few retail outlets that serve the community. Columbia Park could definitely use a small grocery store. The highway should have limited retail to force people to come in off the highway. And there definitely is a place for more retail up at the ski resort and up in Arrow Heights. Convenience store, maybe a liquor store, these types of things. But large box stores, significant retail development, I do not feel should be happening outside of the downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Tim.
Okay, I stumbled on the housing one. I'll come back to another time. So I'll try and do a better job on this one. What's my vision for development? It's not relevant. Absolutely not relevant what my vision is. This is a community vision, and we need to make sure that we're doing all the developments consistent with the OCP. The OCP we've heard from the current council needs to be updated. We need to hear from the community, implement plans that are holistic across the entire community, so we're making good development in the right places for you, for this community.
Thank you. Rob?
Going back to the story of why I ended up in Revelstoke, what was appealing about the downtown was its charm, was its character, was its historical aspects that really brought me into the town. And I think protecting the downtown core is vital. It gives us an identity. It, if we can enrich that with a more elaborate art scene and really make this the center of an exciting place to live, that's very important. On the fringes, I think it's important as well. We have 1,000 people living out by the ski resort. We need services. That's just reality. Bringing them all in downtown with no real parking available, that's a crisis. We should be thinking that, looking forward to that in the future. But I think protecting the downtown core is an essential, and it gives us a sense of value. This is what we are. This is what we should protect.
Thank you, Rob. Steve?
Well, since I was one of the people leading the fight against the highway mall, I guess you know how I stand on that particular issue. That said, I would echo a previous sentiment that what really matters is what you folks think. And this is a key issue for the future of Revelstoke over the next 4 years. We're going to get lots of development coming at us because we're a great place to be. And what fascinates me about that is how do you want your town to look and how do you want it to build out? So that's the most important thing for me. If you want to know where I personally feel, I have some convictions. I'd love to see our downtown expand out along 1st and 2nd over to Garden. I think there's lots of room for more downtown development there that would help alleviate parking issues. I'd like to see all our 11 great neighborhoods have convenience retail that wasn't just cinder block, but terrific little shops. And I'm talking true convenience, 2 or 3 shops, that's it. And I'd like to see that all local business owners, not franchise, not big box, no big entities.
Thank you, Steve. Go ahead, Steve.
I think the downtown core rocks, and it certainly did this weekend. I live downtown, and I think that I think it's a great place to be. Having said that, I think it's important to give people the opportunity to stay out of their cars, and you should have the opportunity to have small retail in most of the neighborhoods, like Arrow Heights, Big Eddy, et cetera, and I believe that's in our official community plan that we have right now, and I think that that's the way to go. I personally ride my bike or walk everywhere, and I'd like to see more people do that. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. Nicole, your turn.
Great, thanks, Madam Moderator. The downtown core in Revelstoke is rocking right now. I remember when I bought my business 5 years ago, most of the businesses on my street on Mackenzie were up for sale. And it was natural. It was people who'd had their businesses for 10 years. It was time to move on. They were ready for their next challenge, and they wanted to see somebody young take over, because technology is disrupting retail and every industry on a level that we've never seen before. But it gives us an opportunity here in Revelstoke, because location doesn't matter the same way it used to. So there's an opportunity for technological advances in this industry that can expand our market beyond just Revelstoke. With developing out more stores, we're having more people move here that want to open up unique stores. Competition is great for quality. You start seeing better pricing, better quality products, and you really see what motivated people to come here and the type of products they bring. So I believe that with the right OCP, we can make it look really great and uniquely Revelstoke.
Thank you, Nicole. Tony?
It's been well documented that I'm pro-development. Although my position has evolved over the years, Steve says the right development is the right way to do it. And,
turn the mic on. There you go for 2 years.
Sorry about that. Anyway, my position has evolved on the highway development, and I agree with Steve in having the right development on the highway and focusing on the downtown, Arrow Heights, and the Columbia Park area as far as new businesses go. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Jackie?
Hi. I agree with you, Steve. The downtown totally rocks. It's adorable, and it's a great place for us to convene, and there's the music in summertime, and I think it's a great place for the hub of Revelstoke. I don't think there's anything wrong with having some diversity and having some small retail in other parts of the town, especially as we grow. But yeah, keeping the focus on the downtown and keeping all the franchises and stuff on the highway.
Thank you, Jackie. Peter?
I agree, the downtown rocks, but there's more streets in Revelstoke than Mackenzie. If you wander off into the Big Eddy sometime, and if you've never been there, take a drive. And we have industrial businesses there. We have loggers, we have welders, and they all depend on keeping their costs down. They would rather have a 25,000 square foot grocery store, a 25,000 square foot hardware store, so they can reduce their costs so they can live here. Tourism doesn't mean much to railroaders. It does mean some to this town, and I understand that that's a part of this town. But let's not forget, there is more streets than Mackenzie.
Thank you, Peter. Gary, you next.
When we talk about development for retail space, I think of the downtown core. But that doesn't mean that we can't go into the outlying areas with small shops that service the area where people are living. That's a prudent thing. Same thing with the Big Eddy. They might want other things out there that service their area or any neighborhood in town. But then it comes down to sustainability. what kind of business do you want? Do you want a small business that's going to be the mom and dad sort of thing that's giving back to the community? Or do you as a community want a big box store or something similar to that where your dollars go completely out of the community? So I look at those sorts of things. If you're talking about retail in Revelstoke, I'm thinking somebody local, somebody who's going to contribute back. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Darcy, your turn.
Thank you. I do love the downtown core, but for me the problem is getting there. Okay, so I think a lot of it has to do with I heard this issue before about changing things with respect to transit and parking. And there is a need in different neighborhoods for, say, later hour convenience stores, where if you're working late, you need to get something. So that's what I can see right now. But I'm still checking out this town. And I see way more positive than negative, and I think that even though everyone here, except for Gary, we're all new, but we're all really passionate about making it work. Thank you.
Thank you, Darcy. Cody, you're on cleanup.
So again, just like everybody else, I also love the downtown core. But what I would say is that I don't believe that council has the right, or they should get involved in choosing which businesses do succeed and don't succeed in this town. What I think is that it's up to you guys on which businesses come to town. And all I'll say is that I worked for a corporation for 13 years. I now work for a local family. And I don't believe that we should be allowing multi-billion-dollar corporations to come to town that, like Gary said, don't truly care about this community. You will not see dollars coming back from Walmarts and these huge corporations back into town. What you'll see is little stores like Nicole's and Southside and all these independent businesses, the ones that truly care about the community. I'm not against expanding the retail. We should be expanding in Big Eddie everywhere else, but we should make sure it's the right business that's going to come into town and truly respect our values and keep our downtown core intact.
Thank you, Cody, and thanks to all of you for answers to that question. Are we holding up okay out there? You've been doing great clapping after each candidate. I thought that might wane, but it's really wonderful that it's not, because they need all the energy from you that they can get. So thank you. So we'll move to question 4, and Tim, you'll start this one. Question 4, our community has many organizations engaged in arts and culture, food security, and recreation. What role do you see the city having in supporting these community interests?
A big role. All those items, arts, culture, heritage, food security, and recreation, we have a big role. It's a big part of our vision statement in all those aspects. And Revelstoke is very special. I would say that we're the leader. We're the leader in British Columbia, maybe the leader in the world in all this holistic aspects of our whole community, whether that's arts and culture and heritage. Food security, the local food initiative, we'll be hearing some more from the other candidates on that. It's amazing. And we need to continue to support that in intelligent ways. And it's something that's Revelstoke is very, very unique in having so much interest in the community in all these aspects. And I'm very proud of that.
Thank you, Tim. Rob?
Communication is a big step we have to improve, or a big part of our community that we have to improve upon. I think part of it is we need to communicate with all these different groups. The Arts and Culture Society and the Heritage Society is going to be, if we're going to be a lifestyle community in the future, it's going to be a big part of that lifestyle. Our recreation, our activities, all this other stuff that comes into our town to recreate, arts and culture meshes well with it. That's going to be a key part of our future. So we need to make sure that they're embraced and communicate well. Their issues are going to be brought forward to the council, and we should be pulling together. We should round these out. Part of the package when you come to Revelstoke, you get this great arts and culture town, you get this recreational hub with a diverse economy. Those are big, but we're going to have a communicating between all aspects is going to be vital. the food group and the recreation, I think it's all about communicating. We need to improve that and keep the lines clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Steve?
As many of you probably know in this room, that we have phenomenal organizations here. I've been to quite a few of those meetings, and I helped serve on the LFI steering committee for the local market, the farmers market. So here's what's cool about it, I think. What's amazed me is all the organizations here in this town are incredibly entrepreneurial. These organizations are not going around looking for handouts. They want to be self-sustaining. The city's role is to enable that and help it even more happen. That's number one. If it has to be that we have to dive in as a city, as a town, as a culture, and rescue something and help something ferment and grow, I think we should do it. But fundamentally, our main job is to help these organizations go further, faster on their own power. And you know what? They got the horsepower to do it.
Thank you, Steve. Steve again.
I came here in 2002, and it was not the town that it is right now. It was the arts and culture was it was okay. But now, every year, it gets better and better here in Revelstoke. We have more music venues, we have more arts, culture, theater, recreation. We kind of got that aced. But it just keeps getting better and better, and I see that we need to just continue along that route and just keep doing what we're doing.
Thank you, Steve. Nicole?
Sitting on the board of the Revelstoke Local Food Initiative is one of the things I'm most proud of over my last 5 years. Arts, culture, food, recreation, this is why we get out of bed in the morning. This is what makes life worth living. So of course we want to continue to see this. The city's role in this has been as a convener. It brings the different groups together, it hooks them up with the resources they need to find the grants so that they can be more self-sufficient. But it's also providing in-kind support with discounted rates at city facilities so that the Garden Guru workshop that is teaching people how to do canning doesn't have to pay a full commercial kitchen rate as it's trying to help people learn how to process more of their food. So the city's role is just to continue working and supporting this. I think the brains and the talent and the expertise in our town is already doing a fantastic job driving it forward. We just need to continue supporting that and encouraging it.
Thank you, Nicole. Tony, please.
I think the city should continue to support these groups, particularly like the grizzly bears, the fish displays, the music. I would continue to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Jackie?
Definitely no support. No, that's bad. No, I'm just kidding. It's really great, I think, to have diversity in our culture and arts, and definitely keeping that momentum alive. The town seems to have turned a point in the last 3 years where we have so many upgrades to the Visual Arts Center and the new Performing Arts Center, Luna, different initiatives that the RCA is putting on, and volunteers doing things like the Women's Enduro mountain biking race. I think, like Nicole said, if we can support any of those initiatives in any capacity, or if the city can do that, that's really important. It's why we get up of bed in the morning.
Thank you. Peter?
Back to my guiding principles, as I outlined earlier, were facts. T being tear down the red tape. So many times do I hear the recreation groups or the arts and culture groups saying they can't do this, they can't do that, because the city is putting up barriers in front of them to prevent their success. So you want to do a Christmas thing. No, you can't do that. You can't put your lights here. You can't do that. And the city has gotten to be back to being called a city. We think we need rules and all these things that prevent us from doing things. Let's go back to being a town. Let's go back to getting those barriers out of the way and let people run with things and be successful.
Thank you, Peter. I've gotten good at this mic running. I can hang on to my own.
We'll let you keep it. Thank you all for your thoughts on this. The city already empowers a lot of the arts groups through committees and closing roads, doing things, but it really is your community. We just came off LunaFest. That wasn't a city-initiated project. That came from one person who had a thought, who talked to 2 or 3 others, and they came up with this incredible thing. The city suggested, let's go for it. So anything that you've seen done in the community hasn't been necessarily a city-initiated thing. It's just supported. And I think as a council, as we go forward, we'll continue to support, but we need again to engage. What kind of support? How do we do it? Let's just carry on having that conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Darcy.
Well, as an artist, I love this city with respect to the art and the pool. But I want to say what I'm really excited about. It's the food initiative and what Nicole and other women have been able to do, and men too. Everywhere I go, it's all in our backyards. And I think we should all know about it. There's 2 different kinds of morels. There's one you shouldn't eat, but it's right there. I have a white-tailed deer that really loved my tomatoes this year, but I did tell him that I like sausage too. So and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm excited because everything grows different. Yeah, don't worry. Lisa said I'll bring my gun. So yeah, I'm interested in the food and working with other women here and other men as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Darcy. Go ahead, Cody.
I think the city does a terrific job of empowering the arts, and like Gary said, with all the different committees that we already have, and I think we can continue to support them ongoing. The one thing I want to really talk about is the food security issue. I do understand quite a bit of this, working in the grocery industry, how many thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds of food go to waste, and it's absolutely horrifying. So whatever we can do as council members or work with the city to work with the local food initiative, I think we need to seriously look at creating or some sort of bylaws and looking to Europe and what they've done, forcing businesses to stop wasting food, and encouraging local homeowners, get rid of the red tape, and encourage homeowners to be able to grow their own food and support them in doing that. Food security is an issue that has to be addressed, and we got to continue to work towards it. And it's one of the things that go back to lack of affordability, comes back to food. And I understand it, trust me.
Thank you, Cody. Michael?
I can't believe I'm the last person up here, and I'm the first one to say thank you, Columbia Basin Trust. Because you can applaud if you'd like. I would like to echo some of the other sentiments. What the city can do is, and what they have been doing, is granting aids for allowing organizations to meet meet here for free in the various boardrooms, as well as advocacy on behalf of some of these organizations, writing letters of support for grant funding. One area which the city has been working towards, and I would like to see a bigger push for, is in terms of recreation in the area around Revelstoke. We need a backcountry recreation access plan so that all of the user groups can continue to use our backcountry areas in a genial fashion without conflict. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. We'll turn now to our 5th question, but I want to ask the folks at the end of the table, the candidates at the end of the table, to please use the mics on the strings. Try not to mess up the wires, because I can see the lights on. Please warn me, the lights on that microphone, and so we need to change the batteries. So if you could give the microphone to Jana and use that microphone at that end for now, that would be great. So the question is, a healthy environment is very important to the citizens of Revelstoke. What have you personally done to minimize your footprint, your environmental footprint, and what would you support as a member of council to minimize negative environmental impacts generally?
Personally, I've just built a new home up on CPR Hill, the big blue house overlooking the downtown. Part of the building process, we try to be as efficient as possible, so the building itself is R50 and the roof is R60, so it's getting close to almost a passive level. Those are active choices I made in the building process. Try to make it energy as efficient as possible. The windows are 3 triple glass. I try to maximize the use of the sun. So personally, on the building front, which is a big part of our expenditure on our consumption of energy, I try to make a very energy efficient home. On an environmental footprint, I think there are many things the city can do. I think we can encourage the downtown biking access only, or limiting the cars is a good option on minimize our transportation consumption of oil and gas. So I think that's one thing that we can do beyond our homeless and housing. Thank you.
They're only mild technology challenges, right? We won't have any big ones, I hope.
This is a very personal issue for myself and my family. Years ago, we had 2 cars in Toronto. We went to 1 car, and we bought the car. We as entrepreneurs, we were always leasing because that's tax advantageous. We decided not to do that. We gave a lot of thought to buying 1 vehicle that was as efficient as we could get for our needs. So that really helped reduce our carbon footprint. Housing, we've always bought an older house. We don't tear it down. We live with its inconsistencies and we upgrade it. LED lights, windows, we've done that every place we've lived. And we also believe in shopping local. We buy everything we possibly can in town, and in our case, we're lucky enough to be able to afford a little more if needed. We haven't found that to be the case when we shop around, to be honest, folks. Shopping local is a huge help on carbon footprint and our economy locally. As a town, we have a terrific sustainability plan. We just need to keep moving that along the curve.
Thank you, Steve. Is it going now?
Is it going now?
No. No. Okay, well, we might have to have a quick break and do a battery change if things fade over here, okay? No, go ahead.
What do I personally do to minimize my footprint? I do my best. I'm sure I could do better. I'm absolutely chronic with garbage management. I try to make as little garbage as I can. I walk and ride my bicycle everywhere. However, what I think we should do as a city is promote pedestrian-friendly downtown movement. Try to keep people out of their cars by having more commercial nodes in other neighborhoods, smaller neighborhoods. I think we should also incentivize green building so that you pay maybe a less of a DCC, maybe a tax break if you're willing to build to R3000 or whatever. And keep up with the no idling bylaws. We could do more of that. We could have more areas that you don't idle. Anyways, just keep out of our cars. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Nicole?
Yep, well, it's still holding out so far. So this is going to be a shameless plug. I've been working on a campaign for years. We finally got it out of my head. At bigmountain.life, I get to go into why I think the mountain lifestyle is a little bit different than when you live in the city. When you live in a remote location like ours, you're more aware of the impacts of your decisions. I see it every day in businesses I interact with, other nonprofits, the clubs. We're all making these decisions every day. It's just a matter of doing more of it and celebrating what we are. So we're trying to have a conversation online of how people can make better decisions in their own lives, how their businesses make better decisions in their operations, and how we as businesses and nonprofit groups support our members and customers with products and services that help them make better decisions. As a city, we can look at not just the financial cost of a decision, but the environmental cost of a decision, the social cost of a decision, because all of those parts play a role in what we do as we design our city moving forward.
Thank you, Nicole. Tony?
I've changed my house and put in LED lights, and I've changed the doors and windows on my rental property. Also, I was on the Clean Air Committee, the city's Clean Air Committee, and was instrumental in curtailing open burning in Revelstoke, and basically instrumental in shutting down the Downey burner as it was creating a lot of smoke and PM10, which is particulate matter less than 10 microns, which is detrimental to your health. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Jeffry?
Hi. I often bike to work, got a reusable water bottle. My housemates will tell you that I don't turn the heat on until I desperately need to. No air conditioning in the summer. Little things here and there, but I could definitely do a better job. We also have a garden, we compost, try and shop locally in the summer and go to the market so that we're buying all of our vegetables here. As a town, I think we can encourage more ride sharing and more sustainable housing solutions, like cooperative living and encouraging community gardens, that kind of thing. High density downtown, definitely to increase pedestrian traffic. More trails connecting different parts of the city so that to encourage more biking. Yeah, and eventually it'd be nice to get some recycling bins downtown.
Thank you, Jackie. Peter?
I'm going to follow the instructions. It'll work.
Well, it would.
So much for that.
Yeah, so much. Good try.
So I'm the bad one of the bunch. I make my living delivering hydrocarbons. And probably in one truck, I would cancel out all your savings in 1 year. The railway engines that idle away 24 hours in the yard here, if we could shut those off, it would cower and compared to everybody in this room and what you're saving. That would make a big difference if we went to the big companies and got them to save that. The amount of diesel fuel that those engines go through idling there are huge. Having said that, I do deliver gas and diesel to the city, and I fully believe that we shouldn't have a gas and diesel fleet for the city. We're an electric city. I was in Beijing. They use electric garbage trucks. Why don't we have electric garbage trucks? Why don't we have electric vehicles for the staff as well?
Thank you, Peter. Gary?
I think on a personal note, I was probably one of the first in this community to put geothermal in my house, so I'm using energy that comes from the ground. I put it in before there was grants, which frustrates the heck out of me. And then I had to replace it, and again, before there was grants. So, and LED lighting and recycling, and even some of my clothes are recycled. So that's on a personal level. With the city, we have a sustainability plan. We have a greenhouse gas plan. We're already working towards those things. Can we do better? Yes, we can all do better. So I think as we move forward, coming up with plans, there'll be new ways in new days to come. It's just researching them, putting them into place at something that doesn't cost us extra as taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Darcy?
I agree with just about everything everyone's talking about, what they can do personally, but for me the biggest change is I don't own a car. And I've had a valid driver's license since 1972. I always had a vehicle, truck I gave it away. I don't need to drive a vehicle right now, even though I love driving. I should be able to take a bus. And I have a place to live that's half the size, and that makes me happy. And I'm real sticky about making sure you winterize your house so you don't have a lot of draft blowing through. And light bulbs, everything, reuse, recreate. So yeah, big changes for me, and it makes me happier. I don't have to maintain a vehicle, and I have my own motor, and I'm getting in shape. Not even an electric scooter, they're dangerous. Okay.
Thank you, Darcy. Cody?
So personally, I bought a house last fall just down on 3rd Street, and I believe, I want to say it's about 115 years old, so it's not insulated very well. I just did some renovations this spring, and as best we could, financially again, seeing what I could afford, we did as much environmental replacement as we could, the best insulation, new windows, and so on. Even in my businesses that I've worked at and that I've managed at, I've always been encouraging and trying to lobby our head offices to, things such as replacing light bulbs to make sure we're going the best efficient ones. I can tell you the last corporation I worked for didn't care about that, and they like to say they care about the environment, but again, coming back to corporations, they really don't. But going forward, things such as like Peter said, and sorry Peter, I'm gonna hurt you here, but you kind of did say it. I think we need to look at going to environmentally friendly cars in our city. We don't need diesel, we don't need gasoline. A lot of other cities around the world have been doing this, and we need to continue to look at things such as that.
Thank you, Cody. Mike?
Well, personally, I'm a vegetarian. I hope I'm not offending anyone by saying that, which is definitely a major improvement for greenhouse gas emissions. I also try not to fly as much as possible, which has resulted in about 17 or 18 Greyhound trips of 40 hours or more. I've also a little embarrassed to admit it, but I've probably almost planted 1 million trees. But what the city can do, I think the city should really be looking at incentivizing things for the private sector to do, whether that's lowering DCC costs and encouraging public transportation, cycling, pedestrian-friendly areas. These are important things that the city should be doing. And another one is, I would say we need more trees in town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Tim?
Okay, just a sampling from the last few hours. Our family, so I'm not taking full credit for this, but our family, my wife picked some beans and tomatoes from our yard, which were cooked in some water, which is being saved for soup, probably for tomorrow. And the waste is already in the composter. And we walked from Columbia Park to here. So that's a sampling from the last couple hours of what we do. Interesting discussion here about lots of great ideas, and I'm thinking, well, how do we implement this? And one of the priorities in our vision statement is environmental citizenship. And so I think council can be looking at how do we create good policy so that we can start to implement all these wonderful ideas.
Thank you, Tim. We're closing. All right, we're going to do one more question, and we're going to all pray that the microphone holds out, and then we'll have a break, okay? So our next question, which Steve Cross will start, is we, like many communities, have infrastructure challenges, both aging infrastructure and the need for additional infrastructure. How should the city address this challenge?
In 1 minute, huh? Okay, here we go. We've only got 3 ways to fund things. We've got user fees, we've got tax, and we've got DCCs. In my opinion, we got to line up the right thing with the right thing. DCCs, for me, I don't think we should be loading up a tax bill with something that's a one-time charge a developer should be passing on in their pricing model. If they can't pass it on, they shouldn't be building it. So, and on the other side of that coin, it's unfair for developers to be asked to pay for something us taxpayers should have been maintaining in better shape all the way along. So that's really it, folks. We have to look at all the costs. We have to look at the assumptions behind those costs, because the assumptions on growth drive the cost estimates, and then apply the right tool in a reasonable way. I think we need a lot of consultation on this process. This is not an easy question.
Thank you, Steve. Steve Kent.
There's a saying I really like, and it's if you have to eat a frog, eat it first thing in the morning. If you have to eat 2 frogs, eat the big one first. This is our biggest frog. We've let our infrastructure fall into actually a pretty poor state, and we need to address that. I think it's what we need to do with our money. And we have to, whether we're funding it through DCCs or through taxes or grants with the federal election year coming up, that's a good option. We just have to pick our biggest priority and focus on it and not do other things until it's done. That's it.
Thank you, Steve. Nicole?
Thank you. Infrastructure. This is the part that scares me the most about going on to City Council. But one thing that I do understand is process and innovation. Looking at what questions have we not asked? I went to the BC Chamber AGM this spring in Kamloops, and I got the opportunity to speak with representatives from other small communities like ours that live on the highway. And the pressure that comes from those travelers is immense. And the old route of paying for this as a small community is the DCCs, property taxes, and grant money. But when we apply for grant money to support our community, we have to put the official population number on there, which officially is 6,719 people. We all know there's a lot more than that that's coming through our community, and we need the senior levels of government to look at innovative ways to help us to invest in our core infrastructure to support that.
Thank you, Nicole. Tony?
Infrastructure is in bad need of repair, and we need to address this through the DCCs with grants and residential funding. And I see this as a priority which must be done, and not one to put we need to be fair with the way we handle this, and not put all the costs onto one party. Thanks.
Thank you, Tony. Jackie?
So I think that DCCs definitely need to be increased to a certain extent. It's been too long since we've updated that bylaw, and Revelstoke is becoming more attractive, so it makes sense to capitalize on that to help pay some of those costs. But the previously proposed increases, I think, would have been pretty detrimental. And I don't think that we're in a place right now that we should be giving anybody giving people that want to spend money developing housing any reason to go somewhere else. I think a reasonable increase would be fine, and then it would stimulate growth, and then we can help spread the cost of the infrastructure and that burden on a growing tax base instead of just making those upgrades that we need to do fall on the existing population.
Thank you, Jackie. Peter?
We know we have rising infrastructure costs. We can balance that off, though. We have operating expenses, and then we have the infrastructure cost. Let's lower our operating costs. Really what it comes down to, do you want city driving shiny new pickup trucks, or do you want to fix your road? Do you want a brand new $400,000 grader, or do you want an upgrade to the sewage plant? So I realize they're two different funds, but if we can save money on one side and actually have a negative operating cost increase, but knowing that we have higher sewer water costs, you may take a 5% increase on that. If the two can balance out, or the two together can be a reasonable rate, then that's easier to swallow. But the key comes down to reducing the city operating costs.
Thank you, Peter. And thank you for being the runner. Gary.
I think when we talk about infrastructure, we're talking about a number of things we don't see in the ground, water, sewer lines, streets, sidewalks, all kinds of those things. Those are things that need to be maintained. In the past, we haven't kept up with that maintenance. We haven't kept up because it's extremely expensive, so you try to minimize that cost. In the past couple of years, the city has started an asset management plan, and through that plan, we're looking at what needs to be fixed and how it gets fixed. So you've just seen what's happened with the DCC stuff. There's three ways, again, to get money: taxation, fees, or DCCs. We have to come up with an innovative plan to pay for things. Maybe we need to come up with some plan that hasn't been thought of yet. So we might need to go to you, the community, to give us suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Darcy?
Well, this is a difficult question, especially because what it says is how should the city address it? I think right away. I was blown away just by January of this year, $600,000 for snow removal. You know, like there is so much that we have to deal with as a group and talking to everybody, because that's what we should be getting right away, and look at what we can do and what options we have. So that would be a number one priority, I think, and it's a complicated one. So for me, I'm saying, what should we do? We should get all together as far as the council that is elected in and look at what we have to do right away, because we're behind, I think. Thank you.
Thanks, Darcy. Cody?
So we were driving home last night from a restaurant and we hit a massive pothole that I think was about 10 feet deep. And I think a lot of people know that we have huge infrastructure problems. The question is, how are we going to pay for it? It's such a hot topic. And what I don't want to see is developers leaving town because we're charging too much for infrastructure. You know, working for a corporation, I've been at the meetings where I know that corporations are looking at towns, and these could be hotels, grocery stores, whatever it is. They're looking at towns and they're going to see what the DCC fees are. Is it profitable for them to come to town and build here? We need to make sure that we're reasonable, encouraging development. But at the same time, I think we need to work with, similar to what Nicole was saying, other ideas. Coming to you guys, sitting down, having better public consultation to figure out different ideas, thinking outside the box. Lobbying the BC government to start funding. Like Nicole said, there's a lot more people in town than are actually paying taxes. And lastly, we need to look at illegal vacation rentals, and they need to start paying their fair share of taxes for putting the burden that they are on our infrastructure, because they're not paying for it.
Thank you, Cody. Mike?
As everyone keeps saying, it's a complicated issue, but it's one that needs to be addressed. Basically, the buck's been getting passed down for the last 25 years. Infrastructure is aging all across North America, and it's time we start addressing it because the cost just continues to rise. Every year with inflation, the cost to fix a street goes up. So we need to start prioritizing what is the most important issues, most important infrastructure that we need to fix, and that's a conversation with the community. And that's not just once we are elected to council, that's right now. You guys need to be telling us, what are the most important issues to you? Is it the sewer plant? Is it the roads? We need to hear from you, and I think that's something that the city really needs to work on, is engaging with people to determine the priorities, and then from there we need to figure out how to pay for it. And I'm out of time. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Tim?
Okay, I've been doing infrastructure, been living, eating, breathing that for the last 25 years. And you guys are a little bit scared of answering that question in 1 minute to solve all the problems. I tell you, it's going to be a lot harder. Peter, it's going to be a lot harder than you think. So what do we need to do? We need information. We need to get all the information. We got to look at what the options are and have an implementation plan. This is going to be a lot of work. 4 years. How are we going to be? Where are we going to be 4 years from now on our infrastructure? We got to make some decisions really, really soon.
Thank you, Tim. And held up. Rob? Everybody say their prayers. One more speaker.
There's no easy answer. The infrastructure is going to be a challenge for many years to come. I think prioritizing the list of items that need to be addressed is the first step, and then we start looking for finding a way to finance it. The first consideration when you start to finance it, it's a long-term asset. It's an asset that will be with us for the next 50 years. So whatever we invest in is a long-term item that we need to find a way to finance and pay for long-term. Taxes, DCCs is a big down payment. DCCs are the down payment. So if we start thinking we're going to pay it all up front, typically to me, that's not a good, wise financial move. It's a long-term asset, you pay for it long-term. So you start thinking, okay, if I can pay it over taxes over the next 50 years, maybe the big bite won't hurt as bad. So I think it's going to take a lot of thought, a lot of intelligent dialogue to make this thing work, but we can make it work. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Those words, "we can make it work," I think are really valuable around a whole bunch of the challenges we have in this amazing place we live in. Thank you. We're going to go for a break, but before we do break, Jenna, I forgot to ask, do we have someone from the city here? Okay, no. I was asked to review the voter eligibility criteria. So I'm going to do that real quick right now so that you don't all run out on me at the end. To be eligible to vote in this election, you have to be 18 years or older on voting day, a Canadian citizen, a resident of BC for at least 6 months before you register, a resident of the city of Revelstoke, or a resident of the city of Revelstoke or a non-resident property owner for at least 30 days immediately before you register and not disqualified for any reason. If you are a non-resident property owner, I strongly encourage you to Google City of Revelstoke eligibility requirements or go down to City Hall and talk to them, because there's 4 or 5 things that may disqualify you for voting. And you probably don't want to find out that on the day that you arrive to vote. So let's take till 10 after 8. Yeah.
Can you also tell people they need 2 pieces of ID?
Thank you.
One with a signature, and one of the pieces of ID should have their place of residence on it.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Laura's running the voting process for the city. 2 pieces of ID, one with a signature and one with your address in Revelstoke on it. Okay, thank you very much. So let's take a break. We'll come back at 10 after 8 by that clock. And we have one more question at least, and we have closing comments, okay? So stand up and stretch and shake your brain a little bit so you can take us yet, but she's at the end of the question for this last question. So I think we'll start in the interest of time, and I'll figure out what we're gonna do if she doesn't show up before it's her time to answer. So we had a question that came from the floor. Thank you so much, and we have time to address it. Jana Wizard is over there getting everything to work so she can bring it up. The question is, what is your position on extending the city boundary further south and removing land from the agricultural land reserve to facilitate residential commercial development beyond the resort? And Steve Cross starts first. Oh, Steve Kent starts first. And I understand there are other people in the audience who are having troubles with names, so we'll make sure that in their closing statements they say their full name. Mr. Kent, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to have to be honest about this. I actually have no problem with extending the city boundaries to the south. To me, it's part of the resort lands. The resort lands anyways. I know it's not popular with the people that live down there, but to me it just seems to be a logical extension of the resort and of the city.
Thanks, Steve. Nicole?
This is a tough one. We've talked about it a lot around a lot of tables. I'm a firm believer in food security and the idea that there are some things I don't mind globalization. If the only place I can get a lava lamp from is New Jersey, I'm okay with that. If a disaster happened, that would not affect my life. When it comes to food, I do not want the only place to buy fresh tomatoes to be so far away that we're limited to what's produced locally. So having that local production is critical. And having lands in reserve for the future that we cannot predict at this time is also critical. But it's important to make sure that that ALR land is possible for farming. Part of the problem right now is that a lot of the lands that are in the ALR are not economically viable to farm with. Extending our boundary is a different topic. I think there's a lot of room still in the downtown core to be able to develop and just tighten things up a little bit more before we look at expanding and trying to drop pipelines elsewhere.
Thank you, Nicole. Tony.
I have no problem with taking that land and developing it and taking it out of the ALR and extending the boundaries. I think it's not viable as for food production, at least. Thank you very much.
So I don't know about the the viability of it from an agricultural standpoint, but I'm sure people much smarter than me do. I think if it were found that it is not viable, then that would be a good way to go and to extend the city boundaries, even just from a perspective of growing our tax base.
I am Revelstoke's only retailer of farm feeds, so I do have a good idea what we have for farm animals in this town. So other than Green Slides cattle, which are way south, we don't have any cows in town. We have 1 goat, we have about 5 pigs, a handful of turkeys, and a bunch of chickens. And most of those are actually in the city, so they're not in that ALR. There's a reason when we drive to Kelowna, we see all those cow barns and things right around Enderby, because that's where the feed is produced. That's where your trucking charges are lowest. If we set up big agriculture, so say, farm-based cows or whatever it might be down in that ALR, we're not going to be competitive getting that feed in. So if you're a ski town, you should ski in it. If you're a farming town, you should farm in it.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks also to Tony and Jackie. I got excited and was clapping rather than saying thanks.
I think the ultimate decision on this is left to the ALR, whether they would take that land out or not. If that land, who's owned already by somebody in the community who is not going to turn it into agricultural land, then at this point, we need to say, okay, what's going to be best for the community? Do we need to expand there? If we need to expand there, if there's some sort of development that would benefit the community, then I'm all for us moving it and bringing that into the community. There are people in the CSRD who do not want to go this into the community. So there is going to be that back and forth. And again, that's going to be another set of engagement with the community to see what's going to be the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. And Darcy, that was quite the entry. Thank you so much. Darcy's next.
Well, this is one issue that I feel very passionate about. It's like taking back the farm. I sure had my heart broken in Saskatchewan when not 1, but 2, 3 ecosystems turned into parking lots. So that dream is gone. And I always wanted to really look at what we can do with land. So this is a hot issue for me, close to my heart. And we don't know what our grandchildren's grandchildren might want to do, so we got to be really careful in deciding this issue, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Darcy. And thank you for doing that on just arriving. Cody.
In regards to the ALR, I'm neither, I would say right now, for or against it. And the reason why is because there's a few reasons, actually. One, if we're going to be taking out land out of the ALR, we have to remember it's not going back there. So once we take it, it's gone. And we really have to keep that into our perspective, just in regards to the food initiative that we have going on in food security. At the same time, I'm not against development. I'm very pro-development if we do it in a sustainable way. So we need to make sure we have the community actively involved when we're making these decisions. And I also want to make sure that we understand too, if we're doing it for housing, have we looked at all other options within Revelstoke? Have we looked at higher density before going out there with these massive properties just to take it out of the ALR and then have it be gone forever? So I would ultimately say it comes down to the decision of public forum, and we need to sit down, and I think we need to look at every decision case by case, not just a general, yep, let's just take land out of the ALR, or let's just keep it in. We need to make sure we're making the right decision for each project or each proposal.
Thank you, Cody. Mike?
I don't think the city should, at this time, be extending its boundaries south. We were just talking about the aging infrastructure in Revelstoke and how we're struggling to pay for it and replace it. And I really don't see how extending our boundaries that far south and bringing sewer lines all the way down there is going to help us in any way, shape, or form. However, in the future, that could change. Having said that, I think that the decision should definitely be left with the residents who are being brought in. I don't think the city should be annexing land from people unwillingly and forcing them to come into the city. And then whether to leave land in the agricultural land reserve, the ultimate decision actually does not rest with the city, but in general, I believe that this is a resource that future generations will need. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Tim?
So there's three issues here. I'll try and tackle all three. ALR land. My personal position on that is it should be very, 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 very difficult to take ALR land out. There should be a tough scrutiny before any ALR. That's just general, and I'm not talking about that one specific parcel. Second, on city boundaries, there is some merits for extending, but that's a complex process, but there is some merits and there's some reasons not. One of the reasons to have an extension is for better continuity as to overall community development. And then the third one is residential commercial development beyond the resort. We've got lots of land within the city already. Why would we dilute our commercial and residential area? That's not environmentally friendly.
Thank you, Tim. Rob?
The ALR land is a reserve that's put in place for our future. Taking it out doesn't seem to make sense for me. We don't know what might be like, what our community will be like in 20, 25 years. Having said that, the only farm down there is at the very end, and it's a cattle farm, and it doesn't produce much food. So the only options are basically cattle on that particular type of ground, and whether this is the best place for it. Revelstoke may not be the best cattle ranching ground around. So I think it's a loaded question. Regarding the annexation into the city boundary, that's again a choice that the residents of the area will make, not the city. They will have the first influence on the decision, and whether we need it is another story. We've got to add to infrastructure. We've got to add to the. Is it green? Density is a greener way to live in the city. So.
Thank you, Rob. Steve, you're next. Steve Cross.
First of all, this is up to the people that in those land areas, but since the question is asking my position, my conviction, here's the thing. Sustainability doesn't come cheap, and it has a price tag, and part of that is keeping land reserved for agricultural use. People say not viable, maybe not viable in traditional farming, but what about hydroponics? What about all kinds of other things that we could do with that land? We'd be foolish, I think, to take that away from our future. The second part of that is, okay, if you're an ALR land owner and you've been there for 2 generations and you want out, let's figure out a way to help you get out so we keep that land in ALR. And the third part is, if you're a developer and you bought that land on speculation, I'm sorry, that's not a gambit you should have made.
Thank you, Steve. Quite the ending to that question. Folks, I don't know about you, but it's almost my bedtime. I sense the energy's flagging a little bit. I want to let you know that there's one I think, quick wrap-up question and then the closing statements, okay? So the last question for the candidates, and Nicole starts first, is, in your view, what are the top 3 priorities for the new council? What are the top 3 priorities for the new council?
That's the one I get for going first, hey? Awesome, I love it. So first off, we need to set up measurements. There's a lot of activity going on in the city. We all talk about transparency and communication. The first thing about communication is having something to communicate. So we need to be tracking our work and what's going on. In each department, there are different key metrics that will indicate the health of that department. So for example, the planning department, which is my second point, is going to be our focus to start with. The previous council did some incredible work with finances, getting the budgets set up so that they're easier to read, easier to follow. They've set up some great reserve funds. Our job is going to be cleaning up that planning department. I want to see how many building permits are at each stage, but also the aging of those permits. So then that way we can set policies moving forward, and as we go through that OCP process, which is the number 3 thing that we need to get done as soon as absolutely possible, we can set those goals and work to implement them.
Thank you, Nicole. Tony.
I think the priority should be the infrastructure, the DCCs, and doing something about the sewage lagoon.
Thank you, Tony, for being so concise. Jackie.
Definitely updating the OCP, I think, is first. There's a lot of things that trickle down from that, including some of the issues that the city has. And the second is prioritizing affordable housing. With that comes vacation rentals and dealing with that whole mess. And then lastly, updating the DCC bylaw, because I think that's crucial, because those infrastructure updates are not going anywhere and they're very expensive.
Thank you, Jackie. Peter?
So in 6 months from now, all these issues will be gone. We'll be off to something else. Anybody remember PCBs? Well, they were a big issue at one time, but nobody talks about them. So I'm going back to my FACTS acronym that you all remember. But because I only need 3, I'm going to go to the C, T, and the S. C for communicate, T for tearing down the red tape, and S for spending.
Thank you, Peter. Gary.
Thank you. I think probably the first priority this council will need to deal with is empowering the departments and the staff, setting them up to success, and then setting metrics so we can measure exactly how those departments are working. The staff themselves look forward to that. Next, we need to be able to communicate within the staffing system and communicating to the community, and then listening to what you have to say. And then thirdly, we're going to need to deal with asset management. And that asset management includes infrastructure, the sewage plant, and it will go into the OCP and the DCCs. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Darcy?
Well, I can't really add too much to what my running mate is saying, except that I'm really excited just to be able to be a part of getting that going and working on the issues that have been talked about today, and that would be finding out about what's going on with the staff. We want to make them feel very secure because they do work very hard, and we'll have to be looking at what people on the council and what areas they are going to be working on, and then we have to get that together. So it's a work in progress, but I see infrastructure also. I'm a bit worried about this winter and what we might be facing as well. So we're going to have to be able to roll with the punches as well. So I'm excited.
Thank you, Darcy. Cody?
There's a few things that I think would need to be priority. One of them would definitely have to be the OCP. I don't think we should be making huge decisions going forward without truly knowing what way the city wants to go, what our goals are, what's our priorities. So we need to update that. It hasn't been updated since I believe 08, basically when the scale was coming in. The town has changed immensely, and we need to update our outlook for it. I also think we need to address the DCC bylaw right away. Again, as Gary mentioned at one of the previous council meetings, we need to bring it back. We need to make sure the building community understands what way we're going, and all the contractors that work here and the hundreds of jobs, they know that they have job security and where we're going, what our prices are going to be, and are we open or are we closed for business? And lastly, I think we need to address the vacation rental. It's getting out of hand. There's probably upwards of 400 illegal vacation rentals. If we begin to address that, it's going to have a spiraling effect of more affordable housing, long-term rentals. And through all of that, we need to work on communication and be more transparent to you, the voters.
Thank you, Darcy. Mike.
Wow. Were you looking at my notes, Cody? I totally agree that I think the first priority should be updating the OCP. This is a long process. It's 6 months to a year. So I'm not saying that we start doing it at the first council meeting, but given the staffing issues we have, we will probably have to contract this out. So looking for a contractor, that's the first step. The next step is bringing the DCCs back. I believe we should be taxing those vacation rentals. I think we should legalize all of the vacation rentals and then tax them. That's the only way it's going to work. And then also bringing in charges for the developers, the large developments, like I was saying earlier, that when people are building large developments, they have to be building staff at housing and market rate housing to go along with them. And I think that those are our priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Tim.
All great ideas. I'm going to take a different approach, and I've been thinking about this. What the three things that we need to do as a council is figure out how we're going to work together, figure out where we're going at the end of our 4-year term, and create a roadmap for that. We're just going to be bouncing all over the place, like pinballs all over the place, and whirlwinds are happening. There's going to be new events happening. We need to know where we're going to go. Strategic planning, that's what I'm talking about here, all those things intertwined. We've got a lot of work to do, and we need to multitask in many things, having them happen simultaneously. And the only way we'll do that is through good strategic planning, making sure that we're cohesive, know where we're going to end up at the end of our 4 years, and create a roadmap to get there.
Thank you, Tim. Rob.
Strategic planning is a big step, probably the most essential step. The plan should address housing, it should address affordability, it should address our asset management, what we intend to do. Once we have that in place, it'll simplify our government, simplify the plan, simplify the decision making. We should be united behind it, and the message needs to get out, and it needs to be pulling everybody together. We have a plan, we have a simple, straightforward government, and we have a great way to get the lines of communication between the community, the council, and the city staff, and let it work well. Because I think we have an opportunity to create something special in Revelstoke, and I think if we put those things in place, we'll start with the plan and we'll do well. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Steve Cross?
I think Tim might have been looking at my notes. Setting the stage, really important. We need to work well as a team, whoever the elected officials are. That's an inner team building exercise. There's lots of things that we can learn as a team on how to sort out problems, prioritization matrices. There's lots of team tools and tricks that we can learn as a group, and I think we should agree to do that right out of the gate, whoever is elected. That's number one, because if we're not working well as a team. Number two, that strategic roadmap, I totally agree with that comment. We do need to get the OCP in motion. I think the values part is excellent already. The land use part does not match the values part. That's where the work needs to go. And lastly, we have some operational things that need immediate attention. Permits, I'd like to suggest and work with City Hall on 3 tracks, small projects, houses, and large projects, different tracks for those. We need an engagement plan with the community. We have to have a process to have regular engagement with you folks. That is ultimately key. And last, we need to have a trust-building exercise with the city staff.
Thank you, Steve. Steve Hunt. Close the questions.
3 priorities for the upcoming council would be, in no particular order, to address our infrastructure needs, starting with the Southside Sewage Lagoon. That the condition of that facility is nowhere near reasonable. The other priority would be to deal with affordable housing, and we would start with illegal vacation rentals to get that more on track. And the third one I forgot, but it was no, it's the revisit the OCP. I've just finished reading it, and it's not that bad. It just needs to be tweaked a little bit. I don't think it's as onerous a task as we may think. Thank you.
Steve, that's good news that it's not as an onerous a task as we might think. That's good news. Could you pass the mic down to Peter? We're going to move now to closing statements. Thank you to all of you for your courageous answers to the pop-up questions. That was really well done. These closing statements are 2 minutes long. And we ask that you say your full name at the beginning because some people aren't sure who's who yet. And I suspect it's the Steves in the middle that are causing the problem. But if you could
answer. A case in point, why am I running for council? The proper answer is to give back to the community, but in reality, the answer is, and you probably know this already, is I'm pissed off. I don't like the way the city's run. I have questions that go unanswered, like, where does our tax money really go? Why does the volunteer fire department have so many paid staff? Does the tail actually wag the dog? Why do similar buildings get issued building permits within hours in some cities, but takes months in Revelstoke? Why do we still have to bounce over the railway tracks at 4th and Victoria if CP closed that spur? How many hours a year do we use our $400,000 grader? Why do we do pavement repairs on 8th Street but not in the Big Eddy? Why are we using the Century Valley building to store park benches? I have lots of questions that I'm sure you do as well. But tonight, as with City Council or other public meetings, you're not allowed to ask live questions. Do you like being restricted to writing questions on a sheet of paper and submitting them to the great unknown? Or do you want to ask elected officials direct questions and receive direct answers? I've been actively commenting on public affairs for over 4 years and will continue to do so if I'm elected. Friend or foe, don't hesitate to send a friend request to me on Facebook. I look forward to continuing the discussion. Thanks for coming out.
So firstly, I think that you guys have, a lot of people have mentioned the OCP, and I think the actual updating that OCP is not so bad. Not much is involved with that. But second step to that, which is totally integrated, is updating all the outdated zoning and subdivision bylaws, and those date back to like the 70s. So that is much more of a big undertaking, and it kind of goes hand in hand. Okay, closing remarks. I haven't actually prepared anything very formal, but I spoke to some council members and people in other positions, and they told me the hardest part of this job is not having good intentions or having good ideas. It's because nobody doesn't want affordable housing. Nobody doesn't want social services for the people that need them. It's more about being really committed and creative at finding solutions to those problems and asking questions and being very persistent, because often you get really bogged down by the bureaucracy and the rules that are stacked on top of the rules, and you can't do this, and there's always going to be a reason for no. But being persistent and trying to find creative solutions is what I promise to do if I'm elected. I'm a hard worker. I'm not afraid to ask questions and do my homework and find those creative solutions that I think we really need if we're going to continue to be the great community that we are, and to support all the members of our community. And yeah, if I'm elected, I promise to do that.
Thank you, Jackie. Tony?
There will be challenging times ahead, but if elected, I look forward to working with the new mayor, council, and staff to formulate a plan to systematically address the infrastructure problems discussed at this meeting. And for guidance, I will rely on a quote from my father, which was, before you spend $1, make sure you have 2 in your pocket. I'm very concerned with the cost creep infiltrating all areas of our lives, not only with government fees and taxes, but also with utilities, building charges, food, and housing costs. I would advocate for accelerating improvements on the Trans-Canada Highway, especially the Summit Lake, Three Valley, and Cave Falls area. I'm a good listener, and I have the time and desire to find solutions to fixing the problems facing this community. I'm ready to roll up my sleeves to work for the people of Revelstoke and ask it for your support on October 20th. Please get out and vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Nicole.
Madam Moderator, members of the community that have stuck with us, and those that are joining us online, thank you so much for being part of this incredible discussion. There's a lot of great positive ideas here. I think you can see that the council that you get is going to work well together regardless. But it's been a long night, so I'd like you all to close your eyes and take a deep breath. Let's have a moment to imagine a Revelstoke that supports you in a modest, fulfilling, affordable lifestyle. What does that look like to you? Now open your eyes and look around the room. Think back to the people that you met at the beginning of this evening. How many ideas do you think we have here? Together, we can come up with innovative solutions to our city's challenges. It won't be perfect, it sure won't be easy, and we definitely won't all be singing Kumbaya. But we can be an example of a thriving community that exists in balance with our roots, our natural environment, and our visitors. My ideas for these solutions are on my website. If you Google Nicole Cherlet, you are going to find lots of information and full statements on most of these topics tonight. If you want to know about something specific that you don't see, please reach out. I'll do my best to respond. Maybe we can sit down for coffee so I can learn more about your perspective. I'll be setting up at the Big Ben Cafe next Tuesday, October 9th, for an open meet and greet before the cannabis public hearing. I'll be spending Wednesday afternoon next week at the Revelstoke Outreach and Awareness Center on the World Mental Health Day. Let's sit down and chat about a shared vision for Revelstoke. We're better together. Madam Moderator.
Thank you, Nicole. Steve Hunt.
It looks to me like everybody at this table has a lot of commonalities. We seem to agree on more things than we disagree on, for sure, and I think that's very encouraging. I think that no matter who is elected and who you vote for, you're going to get a council that can work well together, and I think that's fantastic. I think the next 4 years will be challenging, exciting, and very important. I'd like to be part of that. Definitely get out and vote. It's important.
Thank you, Steve Hunt. Steve Cross, please.
As I said at my opening remarks, you know, it's a critical time the next 4 years. I think we got a lot of capable bodies here at the table. Let's not kid ourselves, the decisions are really big. There's gonna be a lot of conflict in terms of how those decisions are made. I think we need to bring the community together. An engagement process is absolutely critical. You start by voting, and then you start by staying engaged on issues. We need a really good communication plan to do that. My strength is team building and high performance teams. I'm hoping I can help our new team reach that new ground where we hit better solutions through great teamwork rather than conflict. I'm struck in Revelstoke by all the great people we have, the committees that I've worked with, the people in this room. Everyone's very active, very involved. I think we can empower that even more to come up with really unique solutions so that our town stays mountain authentic, not resort authentic. We have a wonderfully diverse community, and I think we want to keep it that way. Most importantly, you know, we've got a lot of great developers in town. Development's not a bad word. We can have lots of great development. Sometimes developers need guidance on that. Sometimes they need help with DCC credits on certain kinds of projects. Again, we need to roll up our sleeves and engage them as much as we need to engage the larger community. And lastly, I would say, look, I'm most interested in what you think will make Revelstoke work well. I've got coffee chats, they're advertised in the review and in the Revelstoke Mountaineer, but essentially it's the next 3 weeks. Every Wednesday I'll be at 10 o'clock at the Modern, and on Thursday, 1 o'clock at Conversations. I'd really like you to drop by, and I want to hear your thoughts on what you think we need to do.
Thank you, Steve. Rob Elliott, please.
It's easy to offer solutions or rant against all the issues that we're addressing in our community. But the reality, once we get to the council table, it's going to take a collaborative effort and an informed effort to make our way through. My reason for participating in the council race started with why I love Revelstoke, how I ended up here. My daughter came here at 3, now is 18, and she's away at university, and she's telling her friends, her new friends, where she's from. They say, wow, Revelstoke, I've got to get there. I've got to get there. And it sounds so exciting. It's such an interesting place. I had a conversation with her recently. She says she's proud that she's from Revelstoke. I think that's special. That says something really that we should cherish. I want to be proud that I can contribute to the council, and that's why I'm standing. And I want to be part of a great community, and I want to offer whatever resources I can to bring it to what its potential. I think we're in for an exciting ride over the next number of years, and I think our future is very bright. So I want to be a part of it, and I'll pitch in where I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Tim?
Thank you. My promises. I have 4 promises. I promise to support the mayor and council in the pursuit of good decisions. I promise to listen to all perspectives and to make an informed decision. I promise to engage in debate and probe for truth. And 4th, I promise to seek for solutions and focus on the positive. I'm just going to say a few thank yous. I would like to thank Mayor McKee and the current council for their commitment over the past 4 years. They've worked hard. It was tougher than they thought. It's going to be tougher than you think. I'd like to also thank, in a big way, Mayor Raven and the previous council. Their hard work on civic accountability and fiscal responsibility needs to be recognized. David Raven continues on the CBT champion our community. Thank you to Revelstoke employees. You also care deeply for our community. You are on our team. I will support you in your quest for community excellence. I'd like to thank Peter Benacki. He's at the back there. He's basically one of my support people and keeping me on the straight and narrow. And Gary Starling, who's unable to be here for health reasons. It's unfortunate he had to drop out of the race, but I'd like to thank them. Thank you to all the candidates. You're doing great work. You've made positive contributions already, and I look forward to working alongside with you. And thank you, all of you, for sticking out this long for one, but also caring enough about Revelstoke's future that you would attend tonight's forum. And a big thank you to my wife, Jacqueline, and for her support. She had a veto on this, and I kind of wish she had. But anyways, just a big thank you to Jackie as well.
Thank you, Tim. Michael Brooks-Hill.
So my name is Michael Brooks-Hill. I was supposed to say it right. And yeah, I would also like to thank all of you people for coming out tonight and all of the candidates who are here. You know, it's a struggle trying to decide who to vote for. And I'm a voter as well, and I'm struggling with who I'm going to vote for, you know? Hopefully I look in a mirror before I show up at the voters booth. But it's a serious concern, and it's a short election period, and I think it's great that you guys came out here tonight, and you know, that those other people who were here earlier were here for a bit. But we need to make good decisions on who we're electing. and it's very difficult. And so I would like to encourage all of you to not just show up here, but to get more involved and ask us more questions. You know, if you want to get in contact with anyone here, all of our information is available either online or in the newspapers. You can email us. Most people have given out their phone numbers. And, you know, that kind of engagement is important, and it's one of the reasons why I've kept doing this. I ran for mayor 4 years ago, and I love engaging with the community. I love talking to people and hearing their ideas and sharing my ideas. And, you know, I share an idea with someone, and then they make it better. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy about doing this. And, you know, it's one of those love-hate kind of relationships, because I don't like public speaking, but yet here I am. And, and it's basically the end of the night. So make sure that you stay involved, and thank you so much for coming out. And on October 20th, please vote Mike Brookshill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Cody?
So my name is Cody Younker. I'm not sure why Peter made that comment about my middle name, but you can ask him. I just want to thank you all for coming out, for being actively engaged. I want to thank everybody here for running. It's way tougher than I thought, and it's just the campaign. I must admit, I didn't think it was going to be this hard, but you know what? It's such a rewarding thing that we're doing here, and I believe everybody probably feels the same way. Meeting with so many people over the past few weeks has been so rewarding. I'm learning everything that you guys have to say, your thoughts and everything like that. What I would say to you is, if you want somebody that's going to listen to you, somebody that will communicate, collaborate, that's trustworthy, hardworking, and will commit to giving 130% to this, then please vote for me, because I'm that passionate. I want to thank my girlfriend Brittany. She's been super supportive of this, and my employer, my new employer, which again, Southside Market, for being so empowering and letting me do this, because they know how truly passionate I am about this community. And most importantly, please, please, please get out and vote. Make your voice heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Cody. Darcy?
I strongly believe that there's no such thing as progress if we're going to leave all the best things in life behind. And Revelstoke hasn't done that. I'm still stunned. Revelstoke is the way things should be, and it's just going to get better. I'm really excited. So my birth name is Darcy Gail Wyonzek. My Cree name is Darcy Gail Thunder from Thunder Child Reserve. That kind of suits me a bit too. I've always wanted to be a cowgirl and ride my horse to work. So if you vote for me, we're going to change a few things about how we get to work. All right? And thank you. I am on last on Thursday, and I'm excited.
Thank you, Darcy. Gary?
As we close this evening, I want to thank you for your interest in the future of your council and, in fact, your city. Many statements have been said, many questions answered. I truly hope that we all have risen to the occasion and garnered your trust. I challenge us all to rise above the apathy and divisiveness and move our community forward with a partnership based on solidarity, equal reverence for all citizens, and a sense of creativity to solve our issues. If you think this partnership model sounds unrealistic, then I urge you to look at where we are now. I truly believe that Revelstoke can be the community that we all want, and I'm committed to being part of the solution, not the problem. I want to be skillful with my words and my actions so that I can contribute to the healing and security of our community. I look for the light in the midst of divisiveness. We are a work in progress, a community on the verge of a positive shift. I hope and trust that we take the highest and best path for all. I encourage you to motivate your family and friends to get out and vote, and I truly thank you for your support.
Thank you, Gary. Well, it has truly been an honor to be up here at the front with this fine slate. We are very, very fortunate as a community to have this number and depth and capacity and passion coming forward with their time, their precious time, to serve for our amazing community. Please, those of you on the live stream and here, let's give a big hand of applause for these folks. And also, as many of the candidates said, thank you to all of you who persevered just about till 9 o'clock to stay, and those of you on the live stream as well. Jana, is the live stream going to be available online for people to pick up?
On the Revelstoke Chamber of Commerce Facebook. And
Revelstoke Chamber of Commerce Facebook. That'll be a challenge for some, including me.
And
the website. I can get there. So you can tell your family and friends if they missed it. This was a valuable time, use of your time, and they should have a look at it as well. I want to echo Gary's words. Many of the candidates, but then Gary's words about voting. Please go out and vote, and please encourage 1 or 2 or 3 others to go out and vote. And if somebody needs a ride, or they need their kids looked after, or something like that, enable them by taking care of that little barrier if you can. So with that, I would usually at the end of a community session like this ask everybody to please help put the chairs away, but don't touch the chairs. Janitors say we scuff the floor when we do that. So you can leave all the chairs. And I just want to say thank you so very much. It's really been a pleasure to do this. And I so much appreciated your applause after every speaker. It gives them energy. Have a good evening and vote.